In India, we have probably the best reputation because that's their religion. I mean, they think this is the essence of Hinduism. And in Europe, for the most part, I think people they just don't know what it is. They just think it's an oddity for most European countries. In England, I think that the Hare Krishnas have a good reputation compared to other European countries, to the mainland European countries.
That point you hit on was quite good, that either people do love it or they do hate it. I mean, not a lot of people even these days really know.
It's partly a generation thing, whether Hare Krishnas are hated or loved, because the older generations tends to hate, and the younger generations tend to tolerate and adore.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know. It had a lot of it has to do with people initially perceived the Hare Krishnas were strange or weird, and it just didn't fit into their lifestyle. But now we live in a very pluralistic age, and people sort of, it doesn't matter what you wear, whether you're wearing a nose ring or you have tattoos or whatever, it's all okay. I didn't mean to offend you.
Oh, no.
It's okay with me. But I'm talking about the big ones.
Yeah. The bullhorns.
The bull ring thing.
Yeah, bull rings.
So we're all good, we're recording still?
Yep,
Okay.
still rolling.
Yeah, because often, I'm going off on a little tangent, but often people, they look at it and they go, I just can't incorporate that into my...
Well, a lot of people think that to be a Hare Krishna, you have to wear so-called bed sheets, you have to shave your head, or wear saris, or wear tilaks. They don't realize that there's another dimension to the Hare Krishna movement. And nowadays, most people don't shave their heads, or wear tilak marks. It was a saying of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's guru, that when the High Court judges are wearing tilaks, then our movement will be successful. So there is something to it, doing it every day. That's one of the reasons why I do it every day. Of course, I'm part of the clergy, and I'm not married and I don't have children.
Well, it's a uniform, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, if you could briefly sort of generally overview some of, at this time we have this expansive movement growing. Temples are opening up around the world. Inherently, you could say there were going to be, problems that arose from this within, and then there's the context surrounding the movement of some backlash. If you feel you could briefly speak to maybe some of just give us an overview statement about how there were some problems starting to arise.
In any institution, problems are going to arise. There's always going to be a dark underbelly. There's always going to be a left and a right, political movements, and that's happened in ISKCON, and that is still happening. But I'm kind of optimistic because I believe that all those things are going to be overcome, and they have been overcome in the past.
What were, in summary, maybe some of the problems that the movement was facing?
The biggest problem in historical memory was called the Robin George case. And it was the case of a young girl who was initiated at the age of 18, who was shuttled between California and Louisiana, and it went to the United States Supreme Court. It became a real battle, and the final judgment was that this girl was not awarded anything, but her mother was awarded something by the court for emotional distress, and it was about a $3,000 judgment. And then the other big case was the case of the students, the Gurukul students that had been abused, either psychologically, sexually, or emotionally. And that was a multi-million-dollar. Originally, it was a $700 million case against ISKCON. That was reduced, and it was finally settled out of court.
Okay, so there were problems with maybe mismanagement, in-house fighting,
That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I wanted to maybe get into some of the problems in a little bit more detail. I mean, we're trying to, just to give you a bit of context where we're trying to come from it in the film, is we're not wanting to negatively portray people, or even, something we're avoiding is perhaps the treatment of children a little bit. But we don't want to cover anything up or sugarcoat anything. We kind of just want to be open as this was a young movement with young people. that Prabhupada was managing, and there were teething problems at this time.
Mm.
And ultimately, though, on a spiritual path, you have to go through challenges in order to hopefully learn something from them. So that's kind of we're coming from that, and Prabhupada leading through everyone through these difficult times. So in regards to some of the in-house problems, could you perhaps give some examples of perhaps the mismanagement or disagreements that were happening within ISKCON at that sort of in the 70s?
Well, mismanagement and disagreements is not of the Hare Krishna movement is not a phenomenon of the 60s and the 70s. It even exists today. But it's diminishing, and the idea is that one learns from mistakes, or as